The most important aspect for women to orgasm is to feel safe. It was a bit of a wake-up call for me, realizing that I really have to understand what it's all about, because I thought I was broken. It wasn't something like now that you Google and you find like so many things.
We're talking about sex, orgasms, the real meaning of feeling safe.
Many women either don't orgasm at all or struggle to. What I've experienced is that every woman carries some sexual trauma. A lot of sexual fantasies, kind of more inappropriate or more intense. It is actually our trauma playing out.
And this conversation is spicy. My guest today is Magda, intimacy expert and founder of the School of Intimacy.
I realized that the way we define an orgasm is wrong, because we define an orgasm through a male experience. It's not that the body doesn't have the ability, it's the mental thing that blocks the body from doing something that it can do.
If you want more pleasure, more honesty, and less performative sex, this one is for you.
If you choose to be in a relationship, you take ownership of that person. There is no intimacy without responsibility. The more responsibility you take for the other person, the deeper you can go.
Magda, today you are a woman full of emotional intimacy, emotional depth, and awareness. But I know that the journey that has led you here hasn't been the case. So if I was to ask you, where did your intimacy journey begin? Where will you bring me to?
Well, I think we would have to go back to when I was in my late 20s. And when I lost my first real relationship because I couldn't orgasm. So I think when you lose your first love, it's painful already, right? But like when it's like, oh, you cannot have an orgasm, it's like, oh, just makes it extra painful. We're talking like many, many years ago. Yes, I'm that old. But it was a bit of a wake-up call for me, realizing that I really have to understand what it's all about, because I thought I was broken, to be fair. I thought it was like, you know what, I really don't know what it's all about. What is an orgasm? And if it wasn't for my housemate, to be honest, I would be just like, you know what, let's just ignore it. I don't want to face it because it's very uncomfortable, right? I'm like, I don't have to date anywhere ever again. I'll just be fine. And my housemate was like, no, Magda, you have to deal with this. Like, you have to find why you're not orgasmic and you have to do something about it. And, we're talking like, over a decade ago, when the word tantra was like, you would hear tantra here and there, but it wasn't something like now that you just go, you Google and you find like, oh my God, so many things. So I kind of had heard about this. I heard about sexual healing and I was like, I want it. And it honestly turned into like a burning desire. And so, I ended up quitting my job, finding a tantra school, then moving to a tantric community. And then from there, it's like a domino effect, building on the new skills, new experiences that eventually led me here. I do feel like a very different woman, but now it's also my job, right? So it honestly changed everything.
Before we get there, because we're definitely gonna get there, walk me through this whole process. So you were in a relationship, you were obviously having sex, but no orgasms. So did your partner at the time know what's going on for you?
I think yes. And what is really interesting for me with that experience is that we were like young enough not to really know how to deal with this and not to talk about it, right? So it was a bit of like, the elephant in the room. No one is saying this, but probably everyone knows. So I don't quite remember if I like tried to fake it. I still enjoyed it and I still love being close because, sex, especially for a woman, it's the whole concept of intimacy and coming close together, like, becoming one pretty much. So I still enjoy that. And I had a lot of pleasure from it. I just couldn't get to the peak, right? And so it's like we never talked about it, nothing. And then when things started getting bad between us, like there were just other things happening in the relationship, we started drifting apart. And one of the topics that at some point, I remember it was brought up in a car, like out of nowhere, was a routine around our sex life, which was like, well, we have sex every morning when you come over, and then we have sex in the morning, and it's like kind of been like this for a while. It was the first time when we like said anything, so we literally went through quite a few months of like sex life. It's not that it was bad, it just wasn't really as satisfying as neither would like, but we just didn't talk about it. Right? We didn't talk about it. We didn't know how to address it. He had told me that apparently he was like Googling things and trying to find out more about like what to do when women don't orgasm. And so when I look at it now as an older woman, I'm like, wow, like I wonder how many couples are in the same situation now where just no one says anything. So you like kind of pretend there's no problem, right? Because it's uncomfortable.
You're bringing me back to my early years. I don't know if I knew what an orgasm was for ages, even though I had sexual partners and boyfriends of the time for many, many years. And the reason being was I thought, oh, it's just me, the problem, because there's so many women out there who can orgasm. So I guess I just can't. So I lived with that belief for many years that it's not for all women, so to
Exactly. I
say.
had the exact same thing. It's just me, I guess, in this life, I'm not going to have it.
Why is that?
You know, so keep in mind, I've been doing this for over a decade now, and I lived in a tantric community, which is really a sex cult, for about 4 years. I've gone through a lot of things, right? So what I say now, today, is based on all of this experience. The most important aspect for women to orgasm is to feel safe. And essentially, women don't. We don't feel safe. And there are many, many reasons why. But what I've experienced is that every woman carries some sexual trauma. That doesn't necessarily mean that she was assaulted, but it's enough that you walk on the street and guys look at you. And like they kind of cross your energy boundaries, right? With their look, with their desire. Imagine like a man looks at you and he wants you, right? And you feel this. Most of us cannot name it, but we feel a certain level of discomfort. So that can also cause trauma. So I don't think I've ever met a single woman who has zero like sexual trauma in her body. And all of it makes us contract and shut down. And essentially, we just don't feel safe, so we don't let go. Because an orgasm is the ultimate experience of letting go of control, right? And just look at how many women are so much in their masculine energy, like controlling everything because we either have to because of the situation of our life, or again, any trauma that pushed us into that energy, right? But like we tense in life generally. And then in bed, you're expected to do the opposite. It's not easy. It's not easy. And by the way, I don't know if you know, but like many, many, many women either don't orgasm at all or struggle to. Like it's not just a few of us. It's so many of us. Like, it's hard to get the right statistics because, I mean, I don't know for you. It's not like I was telling people, yeah, I cannot have an orgasm. Like, so we don't really want to admit it. So I think the official statistics kind of say that like 30% of women don't orgasm or struggle to. I guarantee you it's about 50, if not more. It's just,
Throughout their whole life?
yeah.
Wow, that's quite high numbers. Why do we feel? Wait, before we get there, should we debunk a few myths? So you said we don't feel safe. Is it per se with the partner or is it in the sexual environment? How do I understand that?
It's kinda all
Have I
together.
chosen the wrong partner
Yeah.
then?
No, it's okay. So there is this thing. See, this is something I wish people like understood a bit better. What really matters is a subjective safety, not objective safety. So when I talk to men, and I work with men a lot, they would say, yeah, but like I would never hurt her. I'm like, yes, but that's the objective safety. What matters the most is how she feels in that situation. So does she actually hurt, like does she believe that you will not hurt her? And that has everything to do with her nervous system conditioning, like how the nervous system developed throughout her young years, her past experiences, right? The meaning that she adds to the situation. Because look, you can also have women feeling extremely safe with guys that she shouldn't feel safe with. And we all know those stories, right? So what matters is how she perceives it. So you can be a great partner. It doesn't necessarily mean that she will feel safe, right? And I think this is important to kind of distinguish that, yes, I mean, you do want to be a good partner. You're going to give her, you want to give her this objective safety, but you have to understand that it's not really so much about you. It's about how she interprets the situation based on the past, right? So there's so many layers. It's like, let's say that as a little girl, she was told by her parents that she's too loud, like don't raise your voice or don't be so loud, like, or don't talk. That means that she will be shutting down. And that can, for example, cause problems in the bedroom because she's like, I shouldn't sound. I'm too loud. I contract. right? So it's very complex. Anything in life can create sexual trauma, and anything will impact our sense of safety.
So, on the topic of sexual trauma, what you're saying is it doesn't have to necessarily be related to
Exactly.
sexual experience. It can
Exactly.
be connected to something completely different space. Wow, that's super interesting. And so, do I understand correctly that it just stores in my body and doesn't feel safe to come out or to let go? And that's
Yes.
why when we go in the bed, we don't feel comfortable if to release or to let go. And yeah.
Yes. So here's something very interesting, which I'm very grateful to Tantra, because see, I kind of have beef with sexologists because I believe that they don't even understand what human sexuality is, right? But in Tantra, we work with energy. And I think this is a missing component for a Western woman and a man to truly understand what sexuality is all about. So, your sexual energy is extremely potent. And what sexual healing is through like energy work, breath work, or tantra, it is actually about activating sexual energy or just the energy of your body, your natural life force. And actually, this energy does its work. So you don't even have to do much. You need to activate this energy. And this energy kind of works like, like water flowing through pipes, right? And like if there's a lot of like pressure, like the water has a lot of pressure, it will clean the things, right? It's kind of how the sexual energy works through our body. So now what happens? When you have sex, you activate this energy, right? So a lot of women contract during sex or even want the sex to finish faster, and they can, for example, bring the man to an orgasm, so sex ends, because if they continue, that energy would stir the old pain. And a lot of women become very defensive. Like, if anyone tells them, oh, you just need to relax, or like, let's work through it and everything, they get like, no, don't tell me like what to do. Like, you're a man, there's a lot of like almost anger. And they don't do it consciously because unconsciously, their nervous system knows that if they continue having sex, that energy will eventually move all of these things up to the surface.
So I'm listening to you and I'm thinking, so if I can't orgasm, is it my responsibility to look for a partner and that we build up and work through it together? Or do I try to get my traumas healed or go on my own journey of healing with what's going on within?
So I wouldn't say it's your responsibility to find the right partner for that. I would say it is your responsibility to understand why you're blocked and work on it. But I would say you do want a partner who's going to support you through this. So it's a bit like, we say that it's not my responsibility to make my partner happy. But in a way, if I choose to be in a relationship with someone, I do take that responsibility on, right? Because I want you to be happy. I actually
No, but
care.
I mean, so would I go the way of finding a partner and trying to resolve the problem
No,
together, or
no.
do I take the first step within me with myself and not want for you to come and fix me?
No, so that's what I'm saying. Like your partner can never fix you, but he can support you. So you want a partner who takes responsibility for you, but he's not actually responsible for you, right? That's a bit of a difference. I know it's nuanced, but because look, it's not. I mean, unless he's just a bad lover, which also happens. Let's be clear, okay? Many women don't orgasm because the guys just don't please them the way that the woman actually wants to be pleased. That's a different story, right? Here we're talking about internal blockages. So you do want a man who will support you, who will be there, who will hold space for you, because again, he does impact how safe you feel, right? He does. But it's us. It is us. It's a bit like, if I want to learn how to drive, I do need a good teacher, I need a good car and everything, but I'm the one going through that, right? Anything that has to do with personal development, growth, right? Evolution, like I have to do the work. Like I'm the one going through my pain and my fear. My partner cannot walk that for me, but he can hold my hand to make this easier, right? That's what's happening here. But it's not like he's gonna change positions and you'll suddenly gonna come, because the issue is in her body, right? The body doesn't feel safe, it's contracted, she's not letting go.
Why do we have so much shame around the topic of orgasms in general and sharing openly, even between each other as women, that we've never had an orgasm or that we have hard time orgasming?
To be fair, I actually even don't know why it's so hard. It's such a, because like it's really like embarrassing for a woman to say that I don't orgasm, right? We are so scared to admit it. So I'm not talking here about like not wanting to upset a man and maybe faking it for his for his ego. I'm not even talking about that. I'm just talking about the fact that we feel ashamed when we don't come. And the reason why I say I don't really know why that happens, because we have such a weird relationship to sex, especially when it comes to women. As in, like, you're either too sexual or you're not sexual enough, right? It's like you can't get it right. We are expected to be like ladies, cover ourselves when we're in public, but then in the bedroom, you're meant to be a slut. And like, based on what? Like, men know nothing about female body or what we need to have an orgasm. We don't receive it, right? And yet when you don't come, in a way, it's like something is wrong with you, right? So I think, honestly, there's just so much work to be done around sexuality. So many assumptions and beliefs around it, right? So much shame. And I just kind of feel like maybe us women were like a collateral damage in that mindset, But the fact is that, yes, we do feel really ashamed to admit that. And, for shame thrives in secrecy, right? And the easiest way to release shame is actually by speaking about something, sharing it with someone, right? So I think it's beautiful to be able to talk to your partner about it, or like you said, your girlfriends. And you'll find probably that some of them are in the exact same situation.
We're all in the same train, and I think it's so sad that we choose not to raise our voice for so many important topics like abuse in relationships or eating disorders, and sex is another big one, that we just decide to sit in our shame and quietness because we don't want to be judged. And I think it's so sad, and it should be a different way. That's why I love having this conversation with you. And I'm super excited to go deeper on that juicy topic. But before we do that, I want to know about your story of getting your first orgasm. That's an honor to have here. So what happened between you realizing that there has to be more of this sex life and you turning into being part of a tantric cult for 4 years? So walk me through this gap there.
Well, I'll say this first. I realized that the way we define an orgasm is wrong, because we define an orgasm through a male experience. So that's a peak. That's a point that you reach. Now, clitoral orgasm for women, in fact, feels quite similar. But a true female orgasm, especially like a full body or a vaginal orgasm, it's not a point. It's a wave. And so it's kind of, you get high on energy, right? And you can always go higher. Like, think of the moments when you're like so happy and you're laughing and like you feel your whole body is kind of like vibrating with that energy, right? You can always go more, right? You can laugh more. There's no limit on our state, because it's not a point, it's a state. And so when you start defining orgasm differently, you will realize that, oh, I actually had orgasm. I just didn't go very high. My orgasm was just this kind of shallow wave, but I was feeling that. So I feel almost like there's no such a thing as orgasm and no orgasm, because it's not black and white. The question is like, how deep did you go, right? Sometimes it may be like, oh, I didn't go very deep. Other times I went like very high. Other times I can go even higher, right? So I like to look at it through the lens of how high or low, whatever you prefer, how deep, how low I went, instead of did I or did I not.
So just sorry to interrupt you there, but do we have just the wrong expectations based on how men come?
I think so, yeah. Because for a man, you could say, well, did you ejaculate or not, right? It's kind of black and white. For women, it's more complex, right? So I think it's more about how, right? It's a scale versus yes or no. So what I started realizing is that I've actually had some experiences in the past that were just like softer versions of an orgasm, right? And then what was also very interesting for me is that I realized that orgasm is not necessarily a sexual state. So sex is one of the ways to have an orgasm, but it's not the only one. Through breath work, that's a very easy way. If a woman is open, very easy way to get energy, full body orgasm through breath work.
Really?
Yeah. Exactly. For me, when I was doing Tantra, so look, I don't do this practice anymore, but like when I was really, really open, I could get so easily into this, like, like energy shaking my body and everything. I feel rocks. That's like my element. So I could sit on a rock, and if I just open myself to the rock, like I would feel the energy go through my body. One time I did kambo, which is, the frog's poison that you put on your body,
yes.
and you literally die for like 20, 40 minutes, like you puke and everything, right? After that, for 30 minutes, I was on the floor shaking.
On your own, no
Exactly.
extra
Yes.
external
Another
factors.
example, we were doing
Wow.
this ritual. It's called Awaken of the Senses, when the receiving person just lies down, and it's like 45 minutes, the whole thing. And you just activate each sense at a time. So when the person I was doing this with, when he came to my ear and just whispered something into my ear to activate my hearing, there was like an electricity shooting through my body and my toes crawled. So what I also realized is that orgasmic state is not, again, a point, it's how open you are, right? So it's how open am I in life? And so when you start defining orgasm a bit differently, that's what I'm saying. I cannot tell you like when was my first orgasm, because again, it wasn't like, oh, now I hit something like, a point. No, these were experiences, right? More and more, more and more. I'm like, I'm like, oh, I am orgasmic. So it's not that I have an orgasm. I don't even say it much. I say I'm orgasmic. And how orgasmic am I?
Why was it so important for you to go on that particular journey at that stage of your life?
To be fair, I don't know. As in, like, I think life, I don't know, the way I kind of understand life is that I feel that there are certain things kind of that are meant to happen in your life, right? And it feels like, I don't know, fate or God deciding what happens next, right? When you're like, why did I meet this person? Like, it was such a synchronicity or coincidence, right? It's just like, you can't really explain why certain things happened. What I can tell you is that I felt incredible drive to go in that direction. I really, really, really wanted it. But why did I really want it? I mean, I've had many problems in my life, and I haven't always had such a big drive to solve them, So to be fair, I do know that I feel very comfortable with this work. And when I was in a tantric community, I was having a lot of experiences, and at least my teachers told me that I have like a natural, like, let's say, potential here, because I was getting experiences that people would get after like 5 years of doing different tantric practices. I was getting them after 6 months. So I think my body is like naturally tantric, but like, I don't know, maybe in this life my soul had to go through all
Yeah,
of these steps
it
to
was
get
just
here,
meant to be. Yeah, that was your path and your passion and everything else. So I guess that was your journey. What I was wondering on the topics of orgasms is we covered partly or to a big chunk of why women don't have, or what would be the way to go if they wanted to change that. But there's also the other scenario where women can have orgasms on their own, but not with their
Yeah,
partners.
yeah.
Okay, what's happening there?
um I think a lot of women are in that situation. So what, I mean, it's very simple. What's the variable, right? That's what's different about these two situations.
Oh, there's a
It's the
man.
it's the presence of a partner. So there is fear of being so vulnerable in front of the other person. It's just that. So it's not that the body doesn't have the ability to orgasm, right? And again, like, I say the same for men. Like when men come to me with the problems about like erection or ejaculation, right? It's not that the body doesn't have the ability. It's the mental thing that blocks the body from doing something that it can do, right? And it's same for women. It's not that we are not orgasmic. Like, there's so few examples when it's actually a medical or biological thing in our body that literally blocks it, right? Very, very, very rare. In most cases, it is mental, right? So again, I interpret the situation that it's not safe. He will judge me, right? What will he think? So another thing is, when you look at porn and how women orgasm in porn, right? That's not how it looks like. Very often women make like weird sounds. It's not like, ah, but it's like, ah, so anything can happen. Anything can happen.
Yeah.
And we're scared because we don't look very sexy. Like very often, like women in bed will try to move a certain way, like,
Remove my love handles, my double
yes, and
king
like,
going
the
on.
spine and the
Yeah.
ass, like, so that, all the curves and everything. But in these positions, not always easy to come, right? So you have to be okay with kind of like not looking and sounding sexy. And we're very scared because we think that, oh, he will like leave me if I'm not so beautiful and perfect, right? So there are a lot of reasons why we're terrified of showing that part to a man.
Yeah. So just to make it clear for all the ladies listening to this, the majority of women are able to come.
A vast majority. Oh, vast, 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 vast. So if anyone is in a situation that you haven't had an orgasm or you really struggle, like, thinking that it's something wrong with your body physically, like, leave it to like as a 10th option on your list. Like seriously, like it's not that. It honestly is not that. It's so rare that it's actually a physical thing.
And to go back on the situation with the partner, so what if that was me and I can perfectly come on my own, be it with toys, on handwork, whatsoever, porn, but I can't come with my partner? What would be your advice for these type of situations?
So a few things to do. Number one is do make sure like that he actually pleases her in the way that she wants to. Now here the challenge is that many women don't actually know what they want. And why? Because again, any information about sex that we get is from a male perspective. So okay, you know the movie A Holiday with Cameron Diaz, Jude Law. You don't know that movie?
I'm not sure, no.
Okay, so the movie is basically about two women, American and British, exchanging houses. And so the American woman comes to UK and she meets the brother of the other girl, and like they like each other, they end up hooking up. And I love the movie and everything, apart from that one scene that freaking I cannot believe that anyone put it in the script. And the scene is like this: they're sitting together, and they're about to have sex, and he asks her, "How do you feel about foreplay?" And she goes, "Oh, I think it's overrated." And he goes like, "Whoa, I love you." I mean, ugh.
That's bullshit.
Yeah, but the point is, we've been conditioned to think that. Why? Because men don't need foreplay. And like if a man touches you for 15 minutes before he penetrates you, he thinks, "Oh my God, I'm taking so much time." That's nothing for a woman, right? So we've been gaslighted around our sexual needs, right? So we don't even know what we need. And we've been very good at convincing ourselves that what we get is what we need, right? So first is, I would really say, like, please educate yourself better on what it is that a female body actually needs to relax fully. So I'll just say one thing that I wish all men knew. Oral sex is not foreplay, okay? That's already sex for women. So make sure you do about like 15 minimum, but like 30 minutes of engaging her body before, right? Then her nervous system relaxes, her muscles relax, the blood flow improves, and she feels generally safer, right? So I would say that is very important. Now, the other thing to do, I would say for them to practice situations where they kind of lose control. So there are a few things you can do. One is eye gazing. So you sit in front of each other. It's nice to hold hands and you look into each other's eyes. And you want to do it for like 10 to 15 minutes. And it's very uncomfortable. It's very, very uncomfortable. Usually people look away. They start blinking a lot. They start giggling or they say something because it's very uncomfortable. But if you can hold it, right, you're basically teaching your body to be extremely vulnerable in front of your partner. And another exercise you can do, it's a bit similar, is do heavy breathing through your mouth in front of each other as well. So it's a similar breathing that you would probably do if you were orgasmic, right? So it's like, now it's very sexual. Again, it's very intimate. Your body moves. It's not easy to do it in front of someone. So again, doing that with your partner for like 10 minutes, let's say. Now this is intense. You're going to get like hyperventilated. So maybe start with like 2 minutes and build it up to 10. But it's very difficult to do. Right? If you want to take it even further, you sit in front of your partner, you're holding hands, and you have the breath that goes the opposite way. So when you exhale, I inhale your exhale, and then I exhale and you inhale mine, right? So the breath goes like this. Like breath is so erotic, it's so intimate, it's uncomfortable. So when you practice things like this, you're basically getting accustomed to being so open, right? And so intimate and so raw in front of your partner, right? Kind of familiarizing yourself with that discomfort, which will later help to drop when you're having sex.
And what do we do if our partner is saying, "Fuck that bullshit, no way, I'm going to be gazing you in the eyes
You
for 10,
leave
15
him.
minutes." That's the answer I was waiting for. I was hoping that you're not going to try to educate them or
No,
whatsoever.
look, I have to say one thing. What I said before, we are never responsible for our partner, but we do take responsibility for them. That's a difference, right? So it's not his job to help her come. But if you choose to be in a relationship with someone, you take ownership of that person. Like there's no intimacy without responsibility, right? The more responsibility you take for the other person, the deeper you can go. So if he's like, "Oh, that's your problem,"
or it's too much work, or
Yeah.
you're asking too much.
I mean, I've heard that too. I've heard from like, because I told like one of my exes, I was like, I kind of miss this kind of very sensual lovemaking for like 1 hour. And he's like, "Who has time for that?" Literally with that attitude. I was like, whoa. I mean, as a woman, well, guess what? That's how much time I need to actually be able to have a deep orgasm. So you're saying that you don't care or you're too busy for that? Interesting. Interesting. It sounds like a one-sided relationship, right?
Yeah, I hear you on that. I want to go deeper on that topic as well. But one question that was coming in my head was, why do we sometimes, as women, and of course I'm speaking also from myself, do feel more safe to be naughty and dirty with men that we don't know or know less of than with our very close intimate partners or long-term relationships?
I think for the same reason that, sometimes you meet a stranger and you end up telling them like your deepest like struggles in life. Well, you're never going to see them again. So you don't actually care what they think about you. If I upset my partner and he leaves, that's going to hurt so much. But you're a stranger, so you cannot abandon me. You cannot reject me really because we don't have connection. So there's no fear of the consequences that could happen if I share myself with you.
I'm thinking, is this even? I mean, what's the golden middle, or what's good? I mean, it's great to sometimes just let go and feel naughty and whatsoever, but at the same time, I'm thinking, well, it should be the case with your partner as well. So how do we get to the state where we long-term relationships, we love our partners, but these naughty versions of our single times, we want to bring that with us?
Yeah.
What do we do then?
I mean, look, a lot of things in life, there's this thing called the law of entropy. And what it states is that a system is designed to fall apart. Even think of a human body, right? With age, we fall apart, right? Eventually we die, the body disappears, right? After we die. Think of your car. After some time, it starts breaking, right? Systems are designed to break, and the only way to keep the system run for longer is by taking care of it. So, for example, for our body, we eat, we sleep, right? We drink. If I didn't do it, I would die already. So I can maintain my system for longer by giving it what it needs. Relationships are the same. Like, people talk about 50% divorce rate, right? If you think of it, it's much higher. I think it's like 55. But then think of all the couples that don't get a divorce because of kids, for example, right?
Or never got married or
whatsoever. As in and then think of every relationship that you've had until now, right? Well, it failed. So the success rate of relationships is really, really, really low, which if anyone used a little bit of logic, they could conclude that, hey, maybe relationships are not designed to last. So then you ask yourself, okay, so what breaks relationships? And if I want mine to last, what should I do, right? And something that really puzzles me is when it comes to sex and relationships, we assume it's a natural thing, that I don't have to do anything. Like anything else in life, like if you have a good job, right? You have this podcast, you have to show up consistently recording new episodes. Like, would you ever think, oh, I'm just going to have like super successful podcast, but I'm not going to record any more episodes? Like that would be ridiculous, right?
This cannot work.
And yet that's how we approach intimate relationships, right? So in my opinion, the biggest shift is the mind shift. You have to be investing in your sex life, in your relationship if you want it to be good. So now what does it mean? You experiment. You try different things. You go to sex clubs, for example, see what it's like. There are a lot of like kinky clubs, which are really fun. See if that's your thing, You can record yourself, watch it. There are some like porn sites where you can actually upload your video. So some people would like wear masks. Maybe that's your thing, Maybe you want to try swinging. Maybe you want to go out and flirt with other people. Maybe you want to try some role playing. As in like, you probably keep searching for new ideas for this podcast, right? You want to experiment. You want to get better. There are new ideas that you have, right? You keep playing. That's the answer with anything. You cannot be doing the same thing and expect it to be good. So it's the same here. Just play with your sex life. Just play with your sex life like you would do with anything else that you want to stay good.
I hear you. And at the same time, I'm thinking also maybe from the perspective of the audience, well, but how do I approach this? How do I get playful? I'm so vanilla. I just know what I've been told my whole life and we do the same position, 15 minutes and it's done.
Okay, so there are many, many ways to approach this, but I'm going to share with you one game that I really like and I give to my clients. And it's called a fun box. So what you do is you take a piece of paper and you write down like minimum 10 different things you'd like to try. whatever it is, but it has to be doable, right? Let's say if you're in a relationship and it's monogamous, maybe don't write a threesome, right? So something that your partner can actually do that wouldn't also trigger them or their deepest wounds and fears, right? So you write this down on different pieces of paper, you roll them, fold them, whatever, and you put it in a box and you give this box to your partner. They do the same thing. Every week, right, I open the box, I pull the paper, and I see one of the things that my partner would like to try. And I do it this week. Now, you can choose logistics that maybe you alternate. 1 week is for you, 1 week's for me, right? These are logistics. But the idea is that we keep these boxes. And, maybe like after a few days, like I write more things and I add to the box. So you always have things in the little box, different ideas, right? So that gives you something to try. I think it's a super game because it keeps things playful and it's really easy, right? So just use one game. And then once you kind of do one thing, then you probably open your creativity and other ideas will start flowing. But I'd say start with this.
Theoretically, what if we've been married for the last 20, 30 years? I am ready to be playful, I'm ready to explore, and I suggest diversity or other options, but I don't get the response that I was hoping for. I think it's way easier to say, yeah, just leave him when we are in our 20s or even 30s, when there's no maybe children involved. But how do we handle a case where I'm sure that there's so many families and women and men in long, long marriages that are craving something, because if that was not the case, then people wouldn't be cheating and having affairs with their assistants and so on and so on. But you hit the wall. Any advice on that?
So in most cases, it's what you just said. One partner wants their sex life to change, to get better, and the other one is like resistant to that. I actually very rarely, although I do, meet couples or work with couples where both of them are on the same page, right? So exactly. So how do you handle this when you're the one who wants to like spice things up and you're like, let's not give up. We had such a great sex life. I still want to have a great sex life. How do you convince the partner? So here's the approach that I recommend. You do something for your partner, but you say it's for you. So for example, let's say that I attend like some tantric workshop and I learn a tantric massage, right? I would come to my partner and say, hey babes, listen, I just learned this thing and I really want to practice this. So would you be like, could I practice on you? And you say, it's for me. Like, I want to do it. It gives me pleasure. So usually in situations like this, he may say like, oh, but what's the point? I'm like, it's okay. It's not for you. Don't worry. Like I'll just massage you, right? But I want it from me. Because if I say that it's for you, it brings a lot of fears. There's like, oh my God, like he or she thinks I'm not good enough, or what does it mean? Another chore. Like there are all of the stories we're gonna add, right? But if I say that's not for you, it's for me, I just can you just do this little thing for me, right? They're not as like defensive. And so you start doing these things on your partner for you. And your partner starts being like, oh, that was actually nice. Hey, what was it that you learned? Can you tell me more about it? And they become naturally curious. But you can never convince your partner to want to do it. It's so hard. When you convince them, they're resistant. They think, fuck, I'll do it because I have to, So I find that this approach, it takes a bit longer, but it's something that works the best.
I think it sounds as a comparison to the comfort zone. To begin with, it's very small, but then when you try new things,
oh, absolutely,
it gets bigger and bigger, and it sounds exactly like that. So when you've tried one thing, you're like, oh yeah, I would be open to that. Oh
yeah, absolutely, yeah. It's exactly. It's kind of like it's having this momentum, right? The first few steps are the most difficult, but once playfulness and experimentation becomes like a normal part of your routine, let's say, it just is, it just stays. I don't know. Think, for example, there are some couples who they're foodies, right? And it's kind of like their thing to go to different restaurants. They just like it. When they travel, oh, let's check this restaurant, right? So experimentation and trying things out, it's a routine already for them. It's a normal thing, right? So it's about creating the same habit of trying new things in the bedroom.
On the topic of experimentation, a few keywords are jumping in my head, like role play, as you mentioned, BDSM, tantra, the different types of, correct me if I'm wrong, the Japanese tying.
Shibari,
Shibari,
yeah.
and so on and so on. Why is it that, first of all, we need this kind of role playing or going into different characters and personalities to have beautiful sex experiences is my first question. And the second one is, how come we as women have also, I would say, the desire to be in these dark sex setups very often in terms of like BDSM?
Okay, let's take it one at a time because these
Exactly.
are quite
I just want
different
to make sure
things.
that I drop them both because I don't want to forget, and they are quite
Yes.
an
Okay,
important
so the first one about
ones.
role playing.
Yes.
So I don't know if that's what you meant in your question. It sounded a little bit to me isn't like, why is it needed? As if like we should be okay without it, right?
No, not why is it needed, but why do we have the urge
Yeah.
to be in another role, to spice things up, or to feel in a different way, or show up in a different way as our not as
So
ourselves?
think
So
of
to say.
yourself, right? You probably love being like a boss, and like feel very confident and be like, oh yeah, I have my own business, my own podcast, and like telling people what to do. And you probably also really like when your partner just decides everything for you, right? So no one has like one personality. There are like different Magdas inside of my body, different Luizas inside of your body, right? We have these like different personas. And so we have a natural desire to express all of ourselves. And usually when we start having sex with someone, only one persona comes out, right? Because you find kind of a match between you and your partner, and it's this one persona. And the other personas are kind of like, we'd like to have some fun too, right? This is the intrinsic need for novelty, for uncertainty, to try new things, right? If someone is like super athletic, they're probably not going to be happy with doing just one sport their whole life. They probably have a lot of different things they want to try. And I'm sure you have it in your life too, right? Like I still want to try acting. I want to go back to dancing. I want to play tennis. Like there are all of the things I want to do, or at least try, right? I don't have to like pick up now tennis and do it until I die, but I'd like to try maybe something, right? Yeah. And so it's the same here. So there are different personas in us, and we have a natural like need, desire for self-expression, right? And so when we do role playing, shibari, king, whatever it is, tantra, there are so many different ways. We're basically allowing these other personas to have fun as well.
Yeah, I love that. Short break. If you enjoyed this conversation, please make sure you subscribe to the channel and follow Magda as well for more spicy and juicy topics. Now back to the episode. Yeah, I love that perspective. What's popping up again as well is, okay, I understand that the different personas in me want to have the different type of fun, but why is then roles, for example in porn, so important, or these scenarios where you get involved as the stepmother, stepfather? Because now we're talking about different roles, right? This is not
Yes.
anymore the person that wants to have fun or to be more
Mhm.
naughty or angelic. We're talking about completely different setup and family relationships and complicated, hidden, secretive things. Can you walk me through that a bit as well?
This is complex. I'll say this, okay? So a lot of sexual fantasies, like these kind of more inappropriate or more intense, it is actually our wounds or our trauma playing out. A typical story is you have, a CEO who's always in control, and then he goes and sees dominatrix, right? So we do use sex to actually compensate for different experience we've had in life, right? And that is very true. So for example, if you have someone watching porn about like daddy and, daddy's little girl, things like this, clearly there is a story with the father, right? It is. Now, it doesn't mean that you cannot enjoy these fantasies or watch it, but it's a sign that, hey, there's something in you, some story that maybe you want to process a little bit, right? So one of the reasons why we have these different stories is that, again, keep in mind, we live in a very unhealthy society, right? Majority of people do not go to therapy, right? Majority of people have suppressed any trauma and wounds that they have experienced in childhood, and then they watch porn unknowingly, like reacting in a way that dynamic. That's definitely a big aspect. The second aspect is that we are naturally attracted by what's forbidden. So if you look at desire, sexual desire, in a way, what feeds sexual desire is the opposite to what feeds love. So love needs safety, proximity, familiarity, right? It's like, I feel safe here, and we open more. But for sexual desire, we actually need the opposite. We need distance. We need novelty. We need some danger. And something that's like inappropriate, right? By definition, it's dangerous, right? It's new. people cannot talk about it. It's secret, right? So that brings excitement, and so people like these stories, right? So I think that's also why it's very popular. And then the third thing, like these are kind of like three main reasons for that. The third one is that we definitely do enjoy this dynamic, submission and dominance, right? And so a lot of these scenarios, if you think about like a teacher and a student, a policeman and a poor girl that was caught
Yeah,
cheating, right?
authority and
Exactly.
yes.
All of it are examples of dominance and submission, right? It's just in a different form, but we do find it attractive.
Is women, or also because you said, for example, lots of CEOs are going to dominatrix and so on. So there is also the opposite.
Oh,
So for the opposite
absolutely.
sex as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think generally speaking, women enjoy being submissive because it actually relaxes our nervous system. Whether this is like biological, like intrinsic, or if it's because of, gender roles and how our society is built, I cannot tell you. But the fact is that it does relax us more. It helps us step more into the feminine energy. It helps us to orgasm. It's a more fulfilling experience being held rather than holding, right, in the bedroom. So we have that, but yeah, men absolutely enjoy this. The problem is that there are taboos around it. So usually men who like to be submissive end up in like strong BDSM and some fetishes, right? Because instead of just asking maybe their partner if they can do this, like if they can also play with the opposite dynamic. And by the way, most men are very happy to explore being dominating in the bedroom, right? Instead of like having acceptance for this and a healthy space to just explore it, they end up hiding, so yeah, they hire someone. A lot of men, you have no idea how many men are into being diminished by women. And today with like OnlyFans and all of the platforms, it's so easy to find someone. So you'd be like, just like men literally wanting an online relationship, even so it's not in person, where you just tell him, "Oh, you're a piece of shit. If you don't do it, I'm gonna tell your wife about you." Things like this, like games like that. So many men are into this. Now, again, I do believe there is a story with the mother if they need if they need that power game, right? But it's a bit of a scale. One thing is we all want to explore things, so play with these dynamics are fine. But if you need it so much to be sexually satisfied, that tells you there is something, right? But yeah, a lot of men have a lot of wounds. Men don't really go to therapy. Like it's mostly women, right? So men don't know how to process it. And with the availability of sex and women online, they just do that.
So what I hear is that experimenting is great, playfulness is great, but if it's to such a depth or state that it's maybe even addictive or too extreme.
Or that's the only thing that will like get you off, right? That and like that, let's say vanilla sex will never do for you. You need something really extreme, right? Yeah. Then there is something.
Do we then need to seek help or address
I
that?
would say yes, because in a way, you're not free to truly enjoy your sexuality, right? I think people a bit worry because, see, something, and maybe you've experienced this yourself. When we start doing work on ourselves, one of the very scary thing is you realize that my whole personality is not me, right? It's like, oh my God, it's a coping mechanism over a coping mechanism that created that personality, but it's not really me. And there's nothing scarier than not knowing who you are, losing all of your identity. We call this the black night of the soul, right? Or catharsis or whatever. There are different names for that. It's a very scary place because you just don't know who you are. So if someone is kinky their whole life, if I come and tell you, hey, I think there's a trauma in your body, and if you heal it, you will experience sexuality differently, they get defensive because essentially I tell you that who you are is not who you are. So it's a tricky place. It's a tricky place, but it's about reframing it to say, hey, I probably still enjoy this kink, but I will not need it. I will not be dependent on it. And I will actually expand the experiences that will bring me pleasure, right? So I get to experience more. But it is a difficult process.
Would you say that it's the combination of it all, having the sensuality, the vanilla, but at the same time the kinky to the extent you'd like, that makes the palette of you having a great sexual life?
Absolutely. I mean, look, I love, for example, I don't know, Italian pizza. But if I only have Italian pizza, right? I need all flavors. I need something sweet. I need something sour, something bitter, right? Something salty. That's when I really get to like enjoy food, different textures. It's the same here.
I really love your examples because they make it so simple. And then it makes me think, well, if we can talk about food, the weather, sports in such an easy manner, then why do we have such a hard time talking about sex, which is also
Especially
such a
with your
big.
partner.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I get it with other people, maybe it's uncomfortable, right? But like with your partner, you really should.
So, you, as an expert in the field, I'm curious when you have, be it relationships or just sexual partners, do you, I don't know, have regularly conversations around that topic, or do you just go within the flow, or what would be your approach? I'm just genuinely curious.
Look, I think so to be fair, I've been in this field for so long, I forget that for most people it is not a normal thing to talk
Yeah, I
about,
can
right?
imagine. Yeah.
Yeah, so basically if I meet with someone for like coffee or lunch for the first time, and I'm not even saying like a date, I'm talking just anyone, usually we end up talking about sex right away, but it doesn't feel sexual to me. It's again like if you were to talk about your job, right? That's kind of how it feels. It's very neutral for me. And I kind of forget that for other people, it's probably not. So I think I tend to make people uncomfortable, but not intentional. So for me, this conversation does come up naturally because I talk about it. Like I talk about it a few times a week, right?
And one more question, sorry to interrupt, but do you tell them what you do for a living when you meet to begin with?
Well, that's an interesting one. So generally speaking, when I meet someone and they ask me, so what do you do? It's a stranger. I say I'm a coach. I don't take it further, really. Because people judge, people make stupid jokes. I'm like, I need to kind of see that I can actually tell you, because it may just be pointless to do. Look, I'll give you an example. So I recently had a surgery because I broke my foot, right? So I'm on a table, getting anesthesia, and the doctor was actually the anesthesiologist. He was really fun, and he's asking me questions, right? And he's like, "Oh, so what do you do?" I'm a coach. "Oh, what kind of coaching?" "Well, like for couples, relationships." Like, "Oh, okay. So like, what are some of the topics that you talk about?" I'm like, "Oh, connection, sexuality, like sex." I'm like, "Yeah." And then literally in that moment, the surgeon comes in, and the anesthesiologist goes to him. He's like, "She's a sex coach." And I kid you not, because I saw this, the surgeon's eyes like popped out, right? Now, for me, it's funny. I don't care. But here is what happened after. When I was being discharged from the hospital, right? And I wanted to speak to my surgeon to understand what they did with the food, what I need to do later, etc. He made really inappropriate jokes because of my work, and that's what I don't like. Is people feel uncomfortable, especially men. Men feel like threatened because it threatens their masculinity. So they do stupid jokes, they giggle, they say inappropriate things. And it's quite tiring, I'll tell you honestly. Like from your surgeon, seriously. So this I don't really tell people. And I also started kind of thinking, how do I want to approach dating? Do I want a man right away to know that I'm a sex coach? I'll give you another example. There's this one British fitness influencer. He's really funny. So I followed him because I find him, I love like British banter, right? He's always like in his Speedos, in all of the posts, great body. But to be fair, I don't even find him attractive. Like,
well, speedos for me is automatically a red flag.
in a way, I was going to say,
another
and for me,
topic.
he's just like too much about his looks, But anyways, I really like his sense of humor. He made one reel, I commented, and we just kind of started chatting, and he started following me back on Instagram. Okay, a short exchange. Within like 3 minutes of talking, he already made a sexual comment. And I was like, look, I get it. If you like zoom out, you'll be like, well, he's basically naked in his on his Instagram, right? And he objectively looks really hot. You're a sex coach. You assume, you're just gonna hook up and that's it.
Match, yeah.
And I'm not like this. I don't do one night stands, right? So I do sometimes get tired with how people judge me. So occasionally I'm like, what if I just don't tell people what I do,
Out of curiosity, you feel free to answer or not answer. When you find an attractive man and a partner that you might be interested in dating long term, but the sex life is not great, do you take upon the task to try to bring them to a level that can satisfy you? Because I can imagine that
I would.
You know
Yeah.
what your body needs and you need. So would you take that task?
Yeah,
and
I
say,
would.
okay.
I would. Now, I don't want to be anyone's coach, but I would. I would suggest things to do. But here's what I would look for: is he proactive? right? As in, like, I'll be like, hey, listen, I would like us to try some things. I would expect him to pick up a book about Tantra, maybe go for some workshops, right? Join some men's circles, or both of us go for like a retreat, right? Or something, or like a workshop for couples. What would really annoy me is if I was proactive about this, but he wasn't. He was passive, because that tells me that he doesn't actually care, you know? But yeah, I would also, because look, I'm aware that I've experienced things that most people haven't, that I know things that most people don't. So I'm okay telling you more, but there has to be some foundation. And him wanting to be a better lover for me, I would say, is part of that foundation.
So, besides you and your job, if I wasn't a woman that knows her needs and knows what she likes, but don't get that from my partner, then it's okay for me to be proactive and to try to take the lead on and say what my needs are and bring my partner eventually along on that journey.
Absolutely. Again, this has to be done the right way, because we're very sensitive when it comes to this topic, right? Because like, oh my God, he's not satisfied, she's not satisfied. Exactly. This is very difficult for the ego. We have to remember that. So the way I mean, look, if, for example, if you're not orgasmic and it's obvious, then you have a conversation about it, right? If it's more about like, I'm not really getting the kind of sex that I want, you want to go from the angle of, hey, I'd love to try this. It's like, oh, I just found out about this workshop. I would love to do it. Would you do this with me? Right? So it's more about like, let's try something. Or again, I would love to try something. I would love to do it with you. Right? That approach. But again, his response tells you everything, right? Is he someone like, whatever, go on your own, like, I'm not interested? Then he's, again, probably not a good partner.
But I would also like to touch up on the other side where you might not be as a woman, not as experienced, and then you find a partner who's way advanced than you, has done so many things, has been into BDSM, kinky stuff, whatsoever, tantra, and you have zero experience around that. I think maybe one note is from my personal experience would be to be open to experiment, but at the same time know when to communicate boundaries, because I think that men tend to and can overstep boundaries when you don't put any baseline of what's acceptable and what's not. And I think this can create as a follow-up a very traumatic experience for us, which might eventually shut us down to future partners who would like to explore further practices. Do you have any advice on that? So if I'm in a relationship or a situationship where he's way too much and I'm too vanilla, how do I feel safe? How can he make me feel safe? And what's right? Because I know that, especially in the BDSM world, there's the aftercare is so important, and things that men sometimes tend to just oversee and not take care of.
So I have 3 things to share. That was meant to be the third one, but you just said it. Let's start with this aftercare. When you do any BDSM or kink, aftercare is afterwards, you come, you hug, you embrace, and you talk about the experience. Because these more intense plays, they can trigger something. They can trigger your deep wound, right? Like it can play on your core wounds. It can traumatize a person. So that is essential. Anytime you like, I don't know, play like slapping, hitting, anything that's intense, you always need the aftercare and the conversation after. So that would be number 1, right? Number 2 is I generally believe we should be saying yes more often to our partners for anything. Let's say if your partner is like, we talked about, different hobbies, etc. So let's say your partner is into tennis. I'm not. Just say yes and try. Just be a yes partner, right? Not a yes person in your life to everyone, but to your partner, be a yes person, be a yes partner. So if he wants to try something, say yes. And try it 3 times. So you're saying yes 3 times, right? Why? First of all, again, this is just like as a rule, be open, right? Be open, experiment. But if you just try it once, likely you're not going to enjoy it because it's new. Maybe you're like, "Oh, fuck, I don't want to do it, but I decide I'm going to say yes," right? So the first time you're probably not going to enjoy it. But if you try it 3 times, you actually have a more like realistic feedback whether it's something you enjoy or not, right? You may also enjoy doing something for the first time because it's new, but when you do it for the second or third time, you'll be like, you know what? I'm actually not that into it, right? So that will be the second thing to look at. Now, the third thing is one of my favorite communication tools to discuss anything that's difficult. And I, of course, use it for sexual situations, but it can also be outside of the bedroom. And the technique is called desires, fears, and boundaries. And it's literally as it sounds, meaning if I'm with my partner and let's say he wants to go to a sex club and I don't have this experience and it's uncomfortable, right? Here's what both of us would share. First, my desires. So maybe if I was the man trying to, convince my partner to go, I would say, oh, it's my desire for us to go to a sex party and to look really sexy and to have other men look at you and desire you while I know that you're mine. It's my desire to like dance with you in our sexy, these latex outfits and everything. Maybe it's my desire to have sex with other people looking at us, right? So I talk about my desires. Then I go into my fears. And I say, my fear is that you will not like it. Or my fear is that it will be too much for you, but you will not communicate. And only later I will find out that, for example, something crossed your boundaries, right? Or maybe my fear is that you will enjoy it too much and maybe you will start like flirting with other men and I would feel jealous. And then my boundary. And maybe my boundary would be for that experience, I don't want us to interact with anyone else. Like it's just the two of us, right? And then the other partner goes the same. So she could say, let's say if she's not really convinced about it. So she could say, okay, my desire is for us to be the kind of a couple that tries new things together. So my desire is to experience that in a way that feels pleasant to me. My fears is that I will not feel comfortable, is that it will be too much for me. And my fear is that I will feel pushed to doing something. My fear is that men will want to touch me and I'll not feel comfortable with this. My boundary is that okay, we go, but when I tell you that I need to leave, it's too much for me, we leave, right? And then you just negotiate through these things. So anytime an experience feels uncomfortable, just share desires, fears, and boundaries. So as you can see, there are three things. They're a little like they coexist together, right? So basically be a yes partner, like say yes to your partner if they want something. Try it 3 times to really know if you like it. If you're doing anything more intense, there needs to be aftercare and a conversation, right? And use desires, fears, and boundaries as a communication tool to be able to have this experience in a way that actually feel good.
I love that. And I think that this is a great tool just in any aspect
Oh,
of the
yeah,
relationship,
yeah.
not only in the sexual part, but you imagine if all the couples, all the people would
I
apply
know.
that, we would be just such a better place.
Imagine, let's move in together.
Yeah.
Let's talk desires, fears, boundaries.
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
we don't do that. We directly move in and then you get your
exactly.
stuff and
Or
pick
even
them
with
up.
getting married, right? Like so many people are like, I'm not sure if I want to get married.
I'm so surprised by people not having the right conversations at the stages of the relationships. Like they're, I don't know, 3 years in married now, and I'm like, so what's the plan on that? Oh, so we haven't spoken yet. And I'm like, what do you mean you haven't spoken yet about it? Like you speak about this in month 3 of your relationship and you've been married for 3 years. So for me, just mind blowing. Why is it so hard to really express what we really need? And yeah, if it's meant to be that it's not going to be with this person, then life goes on. But it's a long process, and I really don't want to go there. But what I really want to go there, want to go towards is tantra. Since you've mentioned it so many times, we need to get started on that topic.
Okay, what do you want to know?
So let's start with the basics 1st. What the freak is tantra?
Look, Tantra is a spiritual path. It's very similar to yoga. The only thing is that Tantra incorporated elements that were not allowed in yoga. So yoga, for example, was for men. Tantra included women. Yoga, you cannot eat meat. In Tantra, you use meat for some rituals. In Tantra, you use sex. All classes are welcome. So there's a little bit like a rebel response to yoga, right? Now, these days, of course, when we say Tantra, what do we think? Sex.
That's the only thing I think about. What do you mean?
Exactly. So I think when I talk about Tantra, I really do talk about conscious sexuality because I think that's what most people understand by Tantra. But I think it's nice to remember that the actual term Tantra is much broader, and you can also practice Tantra without any element of sex. But the key to Tantra is that you work with your energy, right? And I kind of said this before, like when you incorporate the element of energy, things finally start making sense. So Tantra works with energy, right? We talk about sexual energy. We talk about energy orgasms. We talk about energy sex, where you don't even touch the partner and you can still have an orgasm, right? So it's a very different experience. And the way I look at Tantra is that Tantra is a tool that allows us to drop deeper and experience life more. So the way I define intimacy is that intimacy is the depth of your experience of being alive, right? So you can be intimate with yourself, with other people, and with life. There are like 3 elements of intimacy. And Tantra is basically how you do it. Tantra gives us tools and understanding to go deeper, to feel deeper. Like I told you about this awaken of the senses ritual, right? This is a ritual that is meant to sensitize our senses. I mean, how crazy is it that someone can whisper into your ear and you can have like energy orgasm, right?
I don't know.
Because
Never
because we're
been
too
there.
tense. Yeah, we're too tense. We're too shut down. So
Yeah.
Tantra helps us open up the heart, open up the sex center, open up our energy body, the energy channels, all the chakras, right, and all the senses. It's really about opening, so I can feel more.
How do I begin with that complicated energy thing?
The best, like how to say, like tools, I guess, would be sound, breath, and movement. So just add these three things. Sound, meaning when you breathe, ha, ha, right? I'm sounding. Unlock the throat. That's very important. Like for a full body orgasm, you need to have unlocked
I think
throat.
especially for women.
Yeah. So you just want to make sounds like and play with different sounds. Don't just like be like ha. For
The
most
high
of us,
notes.
that's not really what we want to do. Yeah, go deeper. Actually, go with like go deep sounds. Like explore. We talked about exploring, right? Different tastes, right? Different things in sex. Explore different sounds. So sounding, using sounds, because sound moves energy. It activates and moves energy. The second thing that moves and activates energy is the breath. So deep breaths. Now, when you meditate through your nose, right? Because you want to what? Calm your body and your mind, still your mind, empty your mind. Well, that's the opposite of sex. So actually, when we do Tantra, we breathe through the mouth because we want to activate everything, right? So that's the second one. The third one is movement. So just adding more movement through your body, like moving your hips, just rocking and everything, right? So often when like we're having sex, for example, we're kind of like in one position, right? For men, for example, when men masturbate, all they do is they get their hands and write on on the magic
Hold on
wand,
tight.
and that's it. Yeah, exactly. And also for women, when we masturbate, it's pretty much the same, right? But what if you started moving your body? Imagine you start sounding, breathing, and moving your body while you touch yourself. That changes the experience. So I would say for people, it just try to incorporate these three elements. And so naturally you will be opening your energy.
I love that description because I think, judging from my own experience, in my opinion, when I think of Tantra, I always think of these crazy people shouting and, do you know what my thoughts and experience has been? And I'm very curious and open when it comes to sexuality.
We do
but
those
Tantra,
things too.
Yeah, Tantra is one of the things where I'm like, I feel like I'm not ready yet and I'm not there yet. I remember I was working as a receptionist in a 5-star hotel and we had a sex coach coming by doing her workshops. And all I remember was that she had a tantra workshop in the hotel, and you would pass by the hall where she was doing it, and all you could hear was like, and I think that was the traumatizing experience for me because I was relatively young. So I was like, what the hell is going on in this room? What is this woman teaching these other women? What's going on? So my perception of Tantra is just these crazy people going there, woohooing each other the whole day and having the wildest sex of their lives.
And look, that happens too. Let us be clear, okay? We have tantric orgies, we have tantric sex parties. All of that happens too. So I think, look, when I was getting into this world, I was also very shy. I was very uncomfortable. There are certain practices that you're like, what? Like, for example, you have yoni and lingam massage, which is basically the massage of the genitals, right? So I remember the very first time when I heard of a yoni massage, which is like a pussy massage, and I was like, what? A stranger putting his fingers inside me? Are you kidding me? I was like, whoa, no. Oh my God, never. Like, never. It took me 3 years before I had my first yoni massage because I was so triggered by this. So the truth is, yeah, people need to go through this. Like, we need steps. Some people are ready to jump right into it, but most people are not. You got to pace it, right? So there are definitely very sexual practices, which I think can traumatize people. So what I believe is important is if anyone wants to start it and like they want to go beyond, for example, these three things like breath, sound, and movement, if they want to attend something, work with someone, is to actually just, find out what's this person's approach to Tantra. Because you have a range of things, right? There are people who work very gently with touch, like, this kind of feather-like touch, and that's it. Maybe they have a feather, right? And they just touch the body very gently. Super pleasant. Others can have exactly group sex parties, right? So you kind of want to know what happens. And it is true that a lot of these more intense workshops or retreats, they don't really write on the website what's going to happen because you're not really allowed to, because that would fall under sex services and prostitution, right? So you don't really write this. But I think if someone is really interested, then email the organizer directly and just ask them, say, hey, listen, I just wanted to ask what exactly, like how far you go. Is there nudity? What kind of interaction there is with other people, right? Like just ask so that you can find something that's at your level.
You
right?
literally took my question or answered it, because I was like, okay, so if I was to begin, where do I begin? But you literally just answered, because there's so many retreats, workshops going on, but it still might be too much for you. Yeah. What if you're just brand new to this world and you want to explore, but then you go there and you're like, oh my God, this is way too much for me, and you fully shut down based on that. So thank you for the great advice and recommendation.
And look, it's also like you want to choose. Do I want to work with just one coach, with one teacher, one-on-one, or do I want to do a group experience, right? They feel very differently. And to be fair, from my experience, I haven't really noticed that like if you do maybe first one-on-one, that then you are open for the group experience. It doesn't seem like stepping to something more intense. But that's another question. Some people may feel more comfortable with that. Maybe getting an online course first and just kind of trying on your own, reading a book. So just kind of like,
step by step.
Exactly. Just,
Yeah, I love it. I'll be more open to the Tantra after my traumatic experience with this
with
sex
this
lady. It was quite traumatizing. I was like, holy shit, what are these people doing? So what I got for you, since I love our spicy conversation, before we kicked off the podcast, I did my research and I went into Quora. I don't know if you're familiar with it, and Reddit. And I was like, what do women ask there? Because I do think that when you're anonymous,
yes, you open
up, you tend to ask questions that you might never say out loud.
True.
I was like, let me just go through what the girlies are asking.
That's exciting.
And so you can give me some insights on that.
Okay.
So my first question is, why do women hide their real fantasies from their partners?
Oh, I think slut shaming. I think we're so conditioned that like, okay, I'm not going to ask you to answer this. So it's just like a rhetorical question. How often do you tell your partner directly, I want to have sex? In most cases, we imply, right? Because it's inappropriate for a lady to be so open sexually. So if you're a lady, if you're a decent woman to be married to, right, you don't tell your fantasies. And if you share your fantasies, then he will just think of you, oh, you're just a slut, you're just for sex, and he won't respect you. I think that's the main reason.
Thank you for answering that. Maybe if I can add on that, I literally had a conversation the other day with a friend of mine. Her now husband asked her how many partners she's had. And she answered. I'm like, first of all, how dare he? Second of all, why did you answer? Because for me, the fact that we now have the freedom to finally just have sex as women and not be sluts, or at least hope to not be perceived as one, is now still being judged. So I'm like, what the hell? You can never win. So you need to be great lover in bed, but at the same time...
But you need to be a virgin. Just FYI, be a virgin, but super experienced and open for everything.
Thank you. Second question. Is it normal for women to want rougher, kinkier sex that they say out loud?
Tricky. I do believe women like to be dominated. And I don't know, you've probably heard this, that rape is like the most common sexual fantasy. It's not the fact that women want to be raped. It's just the fact we want to be overtaken. So this does seem to really arouse us. But what I find is that women who want it really rough are just scared to be vulnerable and intimate. So that's a form of protection from actually being real and raw.
So healing needs to be done somewhere deeper. Interesting. Why is it easier for a woman? I think I kind of asked you, but I'm going to ask you again. Why is it easier for a woman to be sexually open with a casual partner than with someone she loves?
I will tell you though, now I don't know statistics on this, but I also won't say that it's always true. Because like I, for example, I don't do one-night stands because I really struggle to open to a guy that I don't know, and I know quite many women who are the same. So I think maybe it's there are two dynamics, right? Some women need that connection to feel safe and open up, and some women may just look at sex as fun, and they just, the fact that we're not connected, I can just allow myself to do something that, you won't judge me for, right? Something like that.
Yeah, makes sense. Oh, Do women fake orgasms because they want to please or because sex isn't actually good?
I'd say the second. I think actually the main reason why we fake is because I don't think it's so much about his ego, as in like this is like if I say that I'm not enjoying it, then now that opens a big conversation, right? And so I just don't want to shake the feathers. I think it's more about that.
Yeah.
We're just scared of a difficult
It might
conversation.
rock it, and
Yeah.
then we have a way bigger issue than we
Exactly.
thought.
So better just pretend
fair
everything's
enough.
fine.
Yeah.
It's the same situation when some women know that the husband is cheating and they pretend that it's right.
It's a hard one as well.
Yeah.
Is taking too long to orgasm a real issue or a male-centered myth?
Oh my God, it's freaking man's ego. Jesus Christ. You know what? I'm trying to think of something. Okay, here is an example I give to men and women to kind of understand it a bit better, right? That's kind of more about foreplay and all the preparation. So if you date a man for a short time and you suddenly ask him, hey, do you love me? Or like, let's get married, right? Like you ask him for emotional commitment. He's gonna feel really uncomfortable, right? Guess what? Men need longer time to open up emotionally, right? Same way, women need longer time to open up sexually. We're different. We're different, but we have the same dynamic in different areas of life. Just like a man doesn't just open emotionally right away. He needs a long time. Like for us women, it's like, dude, like how much more time do you need? Because for us, it's easy. For a man, it's easy to open sexually and it's generalizing easy to come, right? The same way as it's very easy for us to open emotionally. And it's very easy for us to fall in love, right? And talk about emotions. For men, it's not, right? So for men, listening, if any man is listening, think of yourself how much time you need before you can tell her you love her, before you even know that you love her, right? You need time here. She needs time in the bedroom.
And ladies, if your man is not listening, make sure you send that particular part so they can.
Or just
get
tell
it.
him about this. Like honestly, because I always say it's sex. Sex is such a different experience for a man and a woman. Biologically, like physiologically, right? It's a vulnerable experience for a woman. Like I actually allow someone to enter my body, right? So I tell men, you want to know what it's like for a woman to have sex? Well, get anal penetration, get a prostate massage, and then tell me how it is. How did it feel? That is literally how it feels for a woman every time she has sex. Men don't get it because it's a penetrative movement. They're missing. They're in control, so they're not vulnerable. Now their heart is vulnerable, but not their penis. For us, our vagina is vulnerable because we receive you in, right? And men really don't get that. Men really don't get that. It's really hard for them to understand this. And so one of the things is like try to give them an example of how this they have the same feelings just in a different area of their life because they will not experience sex the same way as we do, right? So they cannot get it. So talk about anal penetration for them, they will get that. Or talk about emotions, because that's when they'll understand what it's like to need time.
I love how you always give these real life examples. They just click and make so much sense. Because if I speak in theory, then I can say, oh yeah, theoretically that's how it is. But then when you give me the example, and I think they can perfectly imagine what a penetration would look and feel like for them, it changes the perspective. Yeah, I love that.
Thank you.
Why do women struggle to tell men what they really want sexually?
One would be against slut shaming, and two, they just don't know. What I told you about that movie, right? Look, I don't know if the movie was written by a woman, I would assume, because it's a romantic comedy, but how can a woman write such a line?
Do you know what I always wonder in the movies? We watch a Netflix series right now, and these two couples or this man is constantly having sex, or there's two guys having constantly sex. Man, they just take the dress up and they stick it in.
Oh my God. I know.
This is real life.
I know.
This is such a lie. That's bullshit. It doesn't work this way. But it's in every single movie, every episode. And we've watched now, I think, 10 episodes. He just pulls up the skirt, and it's in. And I'm like, yeah, okay. Mm-hmm.
Or even, 50 Shades of Grey. It's
Yes.
written by a woman. I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? I don't know, like, because I actually read it for the first time recently as part of like research. I was like, I cannot believe I'm reading this, but it's written by a woman. There is no foreplay. The female character has an orgasm the first time she has sex. I'm like, like what? I mean, if women write sexual fantasies like this is a male sexual fantasy, not a woman's fantasy. It has elements of something that we want, but the whole sex story is from a male perspective. So if a woman who writes this book cannot see that, right, it shows how little we know. Look, when I lived in the tantric community, one of the reasons why I was like, oh my God, I really think I need to teach people this is because I realized what we know, and I'm talking also about sexologists, what we know in the West about sex and sexuality, it's like 30% of what is really out there, you know? We just don't know. And women don't know because we don't get enough education, because it's always been about his orgasm and his pleasure, right? So there's just lack of education. And so women don't know what they want and just kind of like, let's just go along with whatever is happening.
And shut down, be small, don't ask too much. That's a big one. Are you ready? Why do women, I have to, that's the second last. Why do women stop enjoying penetration in long-term relationships?
Okay, I've worked with so many men who come to me and they're like, they've been together with their wife for a very long time, like 20 years and she doesn't want sex anymore. And he tells me, well, the problem is that she just doesn't want sex anymore and I want. I'm like, no. I'll tell you what the problem is that the sex she's been getting is not the sex that she wants. Look, think of it this way. One of your favorite foods, what is it?
Just pizza. We take
pizza.
The basic examples, yeah.
Do you ever need to be forced to eat pizza? Like, do you have to be like, eat it? Like, no, you eat it because you want it, right? When we want something, when we like something, we do it. No one needs to force us, right? So if a woman doesn't want to have sex, it's because the sex she's getting is not the kind of sex that she wants and likes. Now, this is confusing for a lot of men because they're like, oh, but like it used to be good. Not necessarily. When you meet someone and your hormones are really high, like you get quickies and everything, you don't need as much, right? It's with time that, you're not as excited about your partner, which is normal because you get super familiar, right? There's not enough danger, not enough novelty and everything. Like we talked about before, like law of entropy, it's designed to break, right? So with time, it is even more and more important to find out what the other person wants and experiment and try to give the partner what they want. Plus we change and our sexual preferences change as well, right? So it's not that she doesn't like sex. Like, look, it's kind of the same if I invite you over for dinner and I cook something that's really not, like, just not good and you don't really want to eat it. And I conclude, oh, Luiza doesn't like food. That would be rather silly, right? Yeah. Start giving her different type of sex and you'll see that she will want it.
I want to let that sink in because I think it's so important that we just tend to give the labels of, that's facts because we've tried once, 3 times, that's it. And then we put the blame on the other side instead of taking responsibility of, okay, wait, what can I change? What can I do differently? Or having the hard conversations. And I can imagine that it's very hard for a woman after 20 years to also say, you know what?
I've never enjoyed it.
You don't fuck me well.
Yeah, it is hard.
Yeah.
But something that really, really actually saddens me is when I talk to men and they cheat. And the reason why they cheat is because they like, oh, because she's not really sexual. She doesn't want to experiment. She's not into these things. And I'm like, have you ever asked her? Because most likely you have a wife, a woman at home who's sexually unsatisfied and who wishes that it was better. And instead you assumed that she doesn't want it. And you went to find it somewhere else. That really saddens me because men just assume she's not into sex. I'm like, no.
And at some stage, the novelty will wear off. But if you really care about that relationships, then you find a way to keep it running. Yeah.
And even, look, it's also true that, see, I'll tell you something. For a long time, I believed that sex is essential and you need to be having sex, right? I kind of have different views about it now. I actually don't think that sex is essential. I think that intimacy is essential. So for whatever reason, penetration is not really happening because either he has problems with erection, he comes too early, or she has problems with penetration because of menopause, right? Like biological changes. You still, like, what really matters is that you embrace each other, that you lie together naked, right? That you caress each other. These things are essential. So I'm not gonna these days like push couples, no, you should have penetrative sex, but have like sexuality in your life. That is essential. And you can always do that, you know. You can
And you
always
can
do it.
have intimacy in so many shapes and
Exactly.
forms. It doesn't have to come to the act itself of penetration, as you
Exactly.
mentioned. Yeah.
And the crazy thing is something that men don't realize. So I work a lot with men like in their 50s, let's say, and more, who start having, you know, problems with erection. And they come to me and they're like, I don't understand it. Like, here I have this beautiful, like 20, 30-year-old woman in front of me naked and I can't get hard. I'm like, yeah, because you don't have connection with her. What men don't understand, because again, no one talks about it, but with age, men need connection and intimacy more and more. And they struggle to get hard because just seeing a naked woman who wants them is not enough the way it used to be when they were younger. Their body needs something else. And so I also know a lot of older men who, if they were getting enough intimacy and touch, they would also be fine not having penetrative sex that much. But usually couples don't have intimacy, and that's why you think that sex, that penetration is a problem, while the actual missing component is not penetration, is the intimacy and connection.
It's way higher, way beyond.
Mm-hmm.
Last question from
Okay.
our Reddit list. Do women get turned on by things they feel morally conflicted about?
I think we all do. I think we all do, exactly because it's like, you know, it's like, it's kind of wrong, it's kind of bad. You know, it's this called like bad guy, right? Like, ooh, it's inappropriate, secret, like it's secretive, right? I think that's just exciting for us. Now, of course, not everything. Some things we'll just find extremely inappropriate and gross and would never even come close to that. But I think there will be things for both men and women. I don't think that's like gender related. I think we both have this naughty side to us, and like, you know, I think, I don't know, I think if I think of like some of the craziest things that I've done that I would not share publicly, I'm like, yeah, I did it. I think we all have that.
Yeah, I agree. That's what spices up our lives.
Yeah.
So, Magda, I enjoyed this conversation so much, and I think we spoke about so many major important topics, and I think that it can be very helpful for singles, young people, people in relationships. But before we wrap up this conversation, I always ask one question to all my guests. This podcast, not just His Plus One, is for women who know they're meant for more. What would be your piece of advice for women who know they're meant for more but are feeling stuck?
Oh, okay. Give me a moment. It's gonna be really impacted by the conversation that I had recently with a friend of mine. So I'm gonna give you a little bit of like a backstory here. So I'm very fearful. I'm very fearful. And there are moments in life when I just like out of nowhere have confidence, I just go for it. But in many situations, I'm fearful. If it's the first time doing something, I'm really scared. So just kind of say like, someone needs to take me by my hand and take me there for the first time, then I'll continue, right? And it's something that my father really doesn't like about me. And I know he judges me for that, which creates, you know, like a wound in me. And so when this friend of mine reflected the same thing, it really hurt. And the thing is, he's right, right? But it really bothered me for a few hours. And we spoke about this. And I told him, listen, I know that if I moved faster, I would be more successful, right? If I was boom, 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 I would be more successful. But the reality is that the way I am is that I need my pace, which is slower. So maybe I will achieve less, but that's my pace. When I think of my father, I think he kind of, I don't know why, he looks at me as like the son he never had, even though he has a son. But like he was putting a lot of his like ambitions onto me, not my brother. So he expects me to operate like a man. I know quite a few successful men who see the business that I do. They really value me and respect me, and they want to help me become successful. How? By wanting to make me move and operate the way they do. And it's difficult when you keep hearing it from successful men, and then you reflect and you're like, I'm just not like that. Even with work, I don't work a lot, and I don't want to, because as a woman, I don't want to. I just don't want to. And men say, well, yeah, but if you don't work more, you're not going to make more money. I'm like, I know, but at the end of the day, like I operate differently than you. So if I could give advice to women, would be honor your pace, because you probably move differently than men. You know, I know there are all of these like podcasts about productivity and everything by men, right? They're by men. I wouldn't want to actually apply all of this advice. You know, I mean, you probably follow Alex Hormozy. I mean, I think he's great, but like literally he says he wakes up at 5 a.m., he goes to the room, right? And he just works. And there's like not even a window in his room so he can stay focused on work. And he doesn't drink, so he doesn't have to do like pee breaks, right? And that's all he does. And I'm like, you're very successful. I learn a lot from you, but would I want to live like this as a woman? No. So I think there's a lot of gaslighting that is happening here, because men think is like that our way is the only way to succeed, forgetting that maybe this definition of success is a bit different for women. So that would be my advice.
And on that point, I would just add that's why women need to listen podcasts made
To
for
women,
women
I
from
I
women.
do really believe, listen to men as well. That they can have good feedback, but listen to women. Listen to women, because we are built differently. We want different things. Absolutely. And this is why it's amazing that you do this.
Magda, thank you so much for being part of Not Just His Plus One. I really enjoyed this conversation so much. And yeah, it's a wrap.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Woo! Thank you. I'm just going to do the short intro.